What's up, everybody? Welcome to IGN Game Scoop. I'm your host, Damon Hadfield. Joining me this week, Justin Davis,
Scoop.
Brian Altano, Vincent Janito.
Fish.
We've got Sorry, we were just talking about fish and cheese. Here's a quick poll. Do you put cheese on your fish? Let us know. Let me know on Twitter @DameZero or at the email address gamescoop@ign.com.
Literally no one's going to say
The
yes.
answer should be no, and if it's
I
not,
don't think Brian. The only example we could give is Brian says we'll do a lobster mac and cheese.
Yes,
Yeah.
every now and then.
But I can't think of any other example why I would mix fish and cheese.
Also,
even then
lobster, not a fish.
right?
Yeah,
Lobster.
Also true. So
Really?
no, we can't.
It comes from that big garbage hole called the ocean.
Anyway.
The nature's toilet.
Your catchphrase is fish now. I hope you like that.
I'll hold on to it forever.
I need some shirts
stuck
and
with
mugs
that.
printed up.
We got a great
we're
show
not-
for you this week on Game Scoop, not Fish
That's
Scoop.
Fish Scoop.
We should start that show though. Lots to talk about in the world of fish. Every week, new developments.
Trout news.
Trout news. Okay, that's gonna run out of stories pretty fast. Found some trout again. Okay, we've heard enough.
What news is coming out of the trout spout this week?
No.
All right,
It's real dumb.
should probably talk about video games.
Let's do that.
Assassin's Creed Syndicate.
I'll forget it. Let's talk about fish again.
What do you think the hype level for that game is?
It's about right now.
No, I think it's something. I don't care about it personally, but I get the sense that
Between a minnow and a great white.
That's a big range.
That's a good range, right?
it's in between a minnow and a great white. It's an orca.
Okay, that's good.
I think
Right?
an orca is bigger than a great white.
I don't know, man. No, it's not. Isn't the
Yeah.
great white the biggest one?
That great white is a fish. An orca is a whale.
Look, we don't
Well,
know these
it's
things.
actually
We're
a
paid to
porpoise.
talk
Sorry,
about
a
video
porpoise.
games, not
No,
fish.
the
We don't know these
great
things.
white's a shark.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
In any case,
Let me walk this back. I think people are excited about Syndicate more than like Unity, for example.
Okay, yes, they
Okay.
were. I guess what I meant was ever since this morning's, or this is the recent
week.
news. I think
Okay.
yes.
So the
I think
news
so.
this week is they announced Jack the Whip ripoff downloadable content.
Ripper.
Jack. No, I've already spoiled
was an actual-
I spoiled the joke.
That was an actual thread name
That was
on
supposed to-
GameFAQs.
I know.
That was an actual
supposed to be the joke. I ruined it.
Jack the Ripoff?
People have been saying more like Jack the Ripoff.
Ripoff.
Am I right? They announced Jack the Ripper downloadable content. People are saying more like Jack the Ripoff. I spoiled the joke. Anyway,
Anyway.
Jack the Ripper,
Yep.
downloadable episode for Assassin's Creed Syndicate, standalone or part of the season pass.
Yeah.
People are upset because ever since this Victorian era Assassin's Creed was announced, people have been saying it would be awesome.
It would be perfect. It would
to
fit so
have
well. Yeah.
Jack the Ripper involved. And then when they announce it, it's like it's hidden behind this second paywall that you
Yeah.
have to pay for after you already buy the game, and that's why people are upset.
Is buying the game the first paywall?
Yeah.
Are we just calling buying a game a paywall now?
Every time you have to, yeah, that's the culture
mean-
we live in now. If you actually have to give someone money, it's a paywall.
But you know what sucks is free to play.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So they don't want free games, but they also don't want to pay for games.
No, they just don't want games at all. No one
You
likes
can't
games
win.
anymore.
There are
that's
no
true.
winners, basically.
Nintendo.
It's actually a miracle that anybody makes video games for anybody else. It is an absolute miracle that a group of people will get together and decide to use their creativity and talent to create a product that is then put into the hands of people that mostly don't want it.
Or at the very least, they want to pay for it.
I mean,
They're just gonna hate play it.
yeah, they're gonna play it,
Yep.
but they're gonna complain about it all the way there.
I'm kind of two minds with the Jack the Ripper stuff. Well, on the one hand, when you think about Victorian London, you know, it's foggy and dark and so atmospheric. Like Jack the Ripper is like it's like that and Sherlock Holmes,
Yeah.
who's not
What
real.
about Jekyll and Hyde? Is that part of that? I don't know anything about history.
But I do think,
I don't know.
like when
Was
people
he
are
there?
thinking about
when is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde
ask Siri.
romping around?
Does anyone know?
London.
Off the top of my head, I don't know if the time
God,
frames
we
match
are
up.
really just a dumb group of people. Nobody knows?
You know, Jack the Ripper was real,
Yeah.
and Dr. Jekyll not real.
That's
I
what
did
I'm
not
saying.
know that.
yeah.
Did not know that. I
Wait,
thought-
which one did you not know? Did you not know that Jack the Ripper was real, or that
Jekyll and Hyde was a real dude who
Okay.
just had a personality disorder.
Well,
It's totally understandable.
this is taking a turn.
Yeah, he just thought he was a monster man at some nights when he drank that weird potion that was...
I think it's literally the opposite, and he doesn't know he's a monster man.
Oh, really?
I mean, I don't know, man.
Okay.
No, I think he
No,
did.
Hyde-
He was like a.
Did he know it?
He was a scientist, and he was like experimenting. He drank this potion and turned into Mr.
Yeah.
Hyde.
Not real, huh?
Yeah,
Not real.
I think in the version
Jury's still out.
it was a real. It was a real bad NES game.
It was a real bad NES
It
game.
was.
That's right.
But I loved it. It made me hate everything, but I loved it.
So, Jack the Ripper.
Yep.
I think on the one hand, they'd already announced that the years that Assassin's Creed
I have
Syndicate.
this- yeah. Assassin's Creed Syndicate is set in 1868. Jack the Ripper did not emerge till 1888. Right, so
And so some would say that's like splitting hairs. It's like, it's the same era of London, who cares? But
the
like they're
Victorian
really,
era does span many decades.
but they're very specific about like they take I guess they play fast and loose with the Assassin's Creed history sometimes.
No,
They're like,
no,
yeah,
not
you
at all.
lived roughly around then, so fuck it, put them
Not
in
at
the
all.
game.
I mean, Da Vinci totally made guns, and like Benjamin Franklin George Washington was an evil king.
But I do think
and when you sleep in a coffin, you can time travel to your ancestors' memories.
I just think specifically setting the game this early in the Victorian era was like kind of a hint that maybe they were just going to skip, like not do Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
And so now to say, no, we're going to skip 20 years in the future and do this story with Jack the Ripper, I was a little surprised. So the flip side is, though, if you have a game set in Victorian London, like I was saying before, everyone expects a Jack the Ripper story.
Sure.
So to put that behind DLC, I mean, I kind of get it.
Yeah.
I think the reason some people are frustrated is because there was a lot of clamor for it. There was a lot of like, hey, this would be perfect. We'd really love this. And what's interesting is that some of the people who are defending it, are like, hey, Ubisoft listened to the fans. The fans asked for this.
Well, yeah,
and now
that's
they're
what I
giving
wonder.
it to us. And it's like, are they giving it to you?
Well,
Right.
Well, maybe it wasn't a part of their original plan for the game. They had their story, it was set, they announced it, then everyone's asking about Jack the Ripper, and they're like, well, maybe we could add it as downloadable content for afterwards.
But it also feels like in the absence of knowing how complete does the main game feel, like Jack the Ripper is a really cool subject and an interesting mystery, and I didn't like Unity very much, but I did really like the murder mysteries in that game. They were legitimate puzzles that you had to figure out, and there were these clues that you had to piece together. Like it was real, actual puzzle gameplay in like a AAA Assassin's Creed game, which was surprising and impressive. And like to do Jack the Ripper justice, I wouldn't want that to be like go to this dot on the map in the middle of running around and doing everything else, and maybe you'll get this crappy side story. So like this gives me some hope that they're really choosing to do it right and do something really, really cool with it. I hope.
Sure, I think the content can be really good. I think what always comes back down to for all these DLC situations, it's an optics problem, right? It's like it's a perception problem. It's like how early does the player base know about it? Like when do they hear about it? Is it before the game comes out? Is it early in the game's development? Is it 1 week after it comes out, after it launches? There's that element of it, and then there's how far along after the game's release. Is it coming? Is this something that's going to be 6 months down the road, a year down the road, or am I going to be 2 weeks on, 3 weeks on, and there's a new piece of content for me to pay for? Like, I don't necessarily know that I feel like all those factors make a big difference to whether or not I think this content is worth my money. But as it turns out, like those perceptions, and like where is it? Is it on the disc or do I download it? Are all things that just contribute to people's perception that it's a huge, massive ripoff. And I don't know if I think that it is or that it isn't. I just know that like it's going to be a while until we have a consistent consensus on what would be okay for them. Like, do you want no add-on ever? Do you want it to be a year on? Like, what's the right way?
There's no consistent delivery mechanism for that stuff either, right? And that's what makes it very confusing because like you try to latch on to something that works and you get mad at it. Like season passes, I think can be a good idea, but more and more we're seeing season passes that get announced where they're just like, we don't know what's in it yet.
Yeah,
have some faith.
There's a season pass.
Yeah, like
are we
not announcing the content.
Is the Batman one still like half delivered? Isn't it?
Well, the stuff they did so far was really underwhelming. And then like they just announced a Fallout thing, which they're just like, we're making a season pass. Like you don't have to buy it if you want it, get it. But they've been kind of all over the map with that stuff.
Well, track records definitely matter. Like I feel like so. Here's what's interesting to me. And a few weeks ago, they announced the Fallout season pass, but didn't say what was in it. And everyone's like, "Yeah, Fallout DLC! I'm so pumped."
Because the Fallout DLC was so good.
That's the exact same thing that Batman did, and everyone was so mad.
Right.
Yeah.
But the difference is Bethesda's track record for delivering really solid DLC. People are a little bit more willing to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
I think.
Yeah, all of their add-ons for Fallout 3, were super good.
And Assassin's Creed DLC specifically has sometimes been really good and sometimes not. So, who knows?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's Marty spent a lot of time playing Assassin's Creed Syndicate recently, and he seems to be enjoying himself with the game.
Yeah, he's really excited about
it. It seems to be getting back to the fun that was lost a little bit on Unity, I think.
His preview kind of like noted that a lot, that it seems like the people making the game are trying to make something fun and enjoyable instead of just being sort of historic and fast.
I feel like we're in that Assassin's Creed hype cycle where it's like, man, the last one really let me down, but the next one looks so good.
Yeah.
And then like that happened 3 times in a row, and people finally gave up. But then 4 really was so good.
Yeah.
And so then that, like, if you were to chart it, it's like we were back up here, and now it's like sliding back down again.
Mm-hmm.
Can you name all the Assassin's Creeds from the beginning?
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed, Assassin's Creed 2,
Two.
Assassin's Creed Unity,
Brotherhood.
Brotherhood was first, and then was
Revelations.
Then 3.
Then Liberation.
Well, yeah, if we're counting
okay,
that.
yeah,
but
you're right, yeah.
Then
Then
main,
4.
then 4,
Then Unity.
then Unity, and now
Now
Syndicate.
Syndicate. And that's not even counting the new 2D ones that they
Yeah.
have been releasing this year.
Right.
Okay. That's been
Brotherhood's my
It's
favorite.
been quite a ride.
yeah.
Brotherhood is your favorite?
Yeah.
More than Black Flag?
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, I guess I really, really like Black Flag too. Those are my 2 favorites.
Was
Two-
two-
two is still
Brotherhood
my
was the one in
favorite.
Rome.
I like 2 a lot.
Yep.
Yeah,
two's
two's
still
my favorite.
Yep. That's the only one I 100%ed. One of the only games I've 100%ed.
Yeah, I like that game because you have an Italian uncle.
Yep. You know.
What's
you see.
what's his name, though?
It's me, Mario. I love that they put that in there. That this
Yeah.
guy with a red hat and or a red shirt and a mustache comes up to you and says that. You don't remember me? It's me, Mario. And he spent the whole time building that thing, and then they burned
Yeah.
it down in the next game, and that sucked.
Oh, your town? Your like whole like villa?
Two and Brotherhood struck a great balance between like rebuilding the town and building up
Yeah.
Yeah.
and the other games took it too far.
That was the also thing about 2 is that there were parts of 2 where I was like, I've been there. I'm like, that looks
Right.
just like where I've been.
Right.
Like,
I'm actually vaguely optimistic for the new one just because
Yeah.
it's actually
Wanna be.
it feels like it's built from the ground up for the next gen consoles, whereas the last one was kind of like had one
Yeah, that's
foot in each race kind of situation.
I played. I mean,
Is that true? Or because last year there was also we even forgot Assassin's Creed Rogue. That was last year.
we left out Rogue. Did Rogue?
Oh,
did
yeah.
Rogue get ported to current gen consoles yet?
no.
Because Rogue, because I love 4 so much, I want to play
that
Rogue.
was one
Everyone said
that
it's
seemed
more
like-
of the same, and I'm like, but I don't care. Like that was great.
Yeah.
A lot of people felt that Rogue was better than Unity, I think.
I thought Unity was just for the current gen consoles and Rogue was for the last gen
It
consoles.
was, but it was rushed and like
Oh,
kind of
yeah. It was
patchy.
very buggy.
So
I mean, I'll say I played Syndicate at E3, which granted that means it was very early in development, and I found it to be more of the same.
yeah,
More of Unity.
I mean, not more of Unity specific. It just didn't feel new and fresh. It felt like Assassin's Creed, for good or
like
for bad.
honestly, I'm 40 hours into Metal Gear right now. It is really hard to imagine playing a stealth game that doesn't work like that.
Well,
When
AC's
I-
not a
Yep.
stealth game, to be fair.
Well, I mean,
Well,
I think it is. It is to a certain extent. I mean,
It's supposed to be.
Yeah.
It
A lot
of the
was at some point.
a lot of the stuff you see in Metal Gear where you approach like a villa or an area or a town or like a fort and you have to find one guy and extract him
Yeah.
is really just like what you see in Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
Except for your Assassin's Creed vision in Metal Gear, you choke some guy out and he snitches, and you kill him in front of his friends, and then you go and find you have your own way to do it. Assassin's Creed used to be the king of that, and I don't think it's really nailing it. I think in terms of parkour gameplay, there are games that do it way better than Assassin's Creed as well.
Like Mirror's Edge or
Like Mirror's Edge, I even thought like Shadow of Mordor was more
yeah.
fun to just run straight up a wall and get to the top of something. No one else in the game knew how to do that, which broke it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Assassin's Creed is still running on a lot of like the sort of the same ideas I had a long time ago, and I think like to drastically change it would be very difficult. I kind of have like a love it hate it situation with Assassin's Creed games because I do not like the combat at all. I don't like how simplified they've pretty much assigned everything to one button or 2 buttons. I still have that thing where I run into a crowd and like
Yeah.
jump up in the air.
Yeah.
Or you jump off a building and land on a guy that's chasing you. Like stupid stuff like that always happens. But
Or just land on a guy holding a bushel of apples.
Yeah, yeah. Like I was
The cover is
actually.
blown.
I always really appreciated the scope of those games.
Yeah.
And just playing them was kind of secondary. But I'm always willing to give them another shot.
I feel like they need to take a minute and just like figure out like, all right, let's figure out our combat, let's figure out our traversal. Like maybe take a year off and then come back really strong.
I would
with, like,
love
an
that.
incredible game.
Like
Yeah.
that's what like Far Cry is doing that right now, and Splinter Cell's doing that right now, where they're just taking breaks. And Ubisoft has enough going on where I hope where they can just keep the factories going. But
Like yeah, start alternating like Far Cry, Splinter Cell, and
Yeah.
and Assassin's Creed.
yep,
That's actually such a good idea.
yep. Throw in another Rayman.
in other Ubisoft news this week that people are upset about, they've announced that Rainbow Six Siege will launch with 10 maps.
That's a
So,
low
That is
number.
an anemic map
10
pool.
maps, no single player mode, multiplayer only, $60.
That is a skeleton of a game.
Yeah.
And I say that having played the game and really
you-
enjoyed what I've played.
Did
so
you
far.
like, we've
review
played, like-
Evolve?
Yes, I did.
You reviewed Evolve. So like, how does that compare as content-wise to Evolve?
How does this
So-
compare to GoldenEye?
right. So Evolve had, I want to say, 16 maps at launch. Also, in a way, like the map. So the relationship between maps in Evolve and the experience, and then maps in, say, a competitive first-person shooter, like a PvP shooter, a little bit different.
House.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. Like in Evolve, it's like a exploration space, and the cat and mouse changes to a degree on each of those. But I feel like when you're playing a competitive, like team-based shooter, it's a whole different story. Like, the map is the game. The maps are the game. The map pool is the game. And so I feel like that's a big problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I've played the game. I think it's totally fun. But being multiplayer only already limits how much time I'm going to spend with it.
Yeah.
And then, also knowing that there's just not a lot of different environments to take on, too.
But from what you played, like the environment you played in, did it feel like sandboxy enough that you could basically go in and play it 100 different ways?
No.
I mean, I thought that's like the whole thing with the destructible walls and ceilings, where like you're not. It's not like playing the facility in GoldenEye where it's almost the exact same thing every time. Like you can make a door somewhere.
It'll play out a little differently every time.
But I'm sure people will find, as they always do, what's optimal.
Yeah,
like
right.
the defensive
That's the thing,
and
like
offensive
how
teams
long will
always
that
find.
fun last of people sort of figuring
Right.
out like routes and stuff before they're like, nah, I can bounce a grenade off this wall and
Right.
like find
Right.
like they can play test the game to death and they'll still miss some sort of not even necessarily exploits, but just optimal ways. Like there will be a right and wrong way to do things
Sure,
as
absolutely.
the metagame sort of develops.
And I think with a game like that, where there's an existing player base of like enthusiasts that already care about that franchise and that style of gameplay, that'll happen, in my opinion, very, very quickly.
I do think the flip side is I think that 10 map number is low, like surprisingly low. I saw it and was like, oof. But the flip side is in most multiplayer games is about 10 maps that people like. And then the rest are sort of like, we don't even care about these other 8 maps.
Yeah,
So
but
it's
that's
like,
because they start with 20 and they get to narrow down the 10 they like.
But that's
so
what I
think
mean.
if
So
you
but
start
like
with
you
10,
end up
you end up with 5.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Maybe they've just made 10 really good maps.
Perhaps.
We don't know. Like that's why it's weird for me to sort of get preemptively upset about something where I don't know really how mechanically it functions on its own. Like maybe these are really awesome standalone pieces of content. I've never like really counted maps in games before to that extent.
That's what I mean.
I really just kind of gravitate to I spent probably a year playing Mario Kart 64 Battle Mode that had 4 maps and one of them was bad. But I kept going, because the other 3 were great.
The last shooters that I played really, really heavily were Call of Duty 4, Halo Reach, and Gears of War. And in all 3 of those, there was probably about 8 to 10 maps that people played with regularity. And
Those also had big single-player campaigns.
Yeah,
But I'm thinking specifically about multiplayer. Like when I played 1,000 matches of multiplayer, those 1,000 matches were the majority of them were probably on 8 to 10 really, really strong maps, and then certain ones fall off. So that's why I don't know if that's deliberate on Ubisoft's part. They probably have data from previous games that shows, man, look, people are really just gravitating towards these strong maps anyway. So let's just focus on where the strengths are. But that doesn't excuse the absence of, all the other gameplay, all the other things that make a game worth $60.
right.
Not to mention also, like, even if they are looking, let's say they did do that, right? They looked at other games and they said, you know what, according to our research, people only generally play on a handful of maps anyway, so let's just give them a handful of maps.
Or just dust.
That is, right, or just dust if you're playing Counter-Strike. That is, of course, assuming that you are confident that you have the greatest level designers in the entire history of video
Right,
games.
that's what Altama's saying, is you
out of
make
10
20 and then 10
who out of 10,
Yes,
they will
yes.
hit all 10 of those shots.
Yep.
You know what I mean? As opposed to what happens in other, even with a legendary design crew, you get most other, great legendary FPSs will have 20 maps and 5 of them will be ones that stand the test of time.
Yeah.
Like going by the same, even better math, even if they hit 50% of these maps, even if half of them are unbelievably just impeccable, there will still only be 5 maps that people play.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't think there has been yet a big AAA multiplayer-only game that was really a home run.
Dota.
Well, but that's, let's say a shooter.
Sure.
Multiplayer,
depending on
multiplayer-only
how you
shooter.
Counter-Strike.
So, like, who's playing Titanfall? Who's playing Evolve?
Yeah, Evolve has fallen off a lot. But although I will say, like, Evolve started off with a relatively, like, I would say a medium-sized map pool, but they've also added several free maps since then. Not to mention, new monsters and hunters, which sadly haven't been free and quite expensive, which has been I think the main problem with that game. But yeah, I guess it's true. It's hard to think about the last.
Counter-Strike Go was a big success, but that was a digital-only release. I think it was like $20.
Yeah.
Right. So
Battlefield was also this
I'm
year,
thinking
too.
of a big AAA retail release.
Single player.
I think.
Did it? Bad Company? Oh, it did.
Not Bad Company.
No,
What's
Battlefield Hardline had
Hardline.
single player.
Oh, it did.
But Battlefront is
Doesn't.
coming this year. That'll, I think.
Battlefront could be
Would
the
that
one.
be the one?
That could be
Is
the one to break
first
through.
one that is a home run.
Yeah, I mean that's riding off a lot of Star Wars hype right now.
And Battlefront hype. I mean,
And it's probably going to be a great game. I'm super disappointed there's no single player there at all. Like that, the fact that they've made an engine that is showcasing the most beautiful version of Star Wars I've ever seen in the video game, and the only thing I can do in it is run around in circles and shoot other people. Like while
I thought there was
kids
some
with
kind of
headsets yell
horde
at me.
mode challenge deal in it that I remember reading about.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah,
still
there
like,
are-
it's
there-
still like multiplayer based. Like there's no like story
are-
campaign.
No.
There are co-op missions that are made to be played just you and your friend, to a couple of friends, PVE against the computer. Still not a replacement for a full-fledged campaign, obviously, but
I mean, it's interesting. It's really, again, with all these games, it's hard to, like, maybe Battlefront's co-op, scenario stuff could be really cool. Like, when I was playing Smash Brothers for Wii U, I didn't ever play the story mode. I played the single-player events, and I played the 100-man Smash with every character to try to get as high of a score as possible. And, like, I played 20 or 30 hours of that game single-player, but none of that was in, like, the story.
Well-
Or almost none of it. Like, because it had a really, elaborate suite, like, it used all the tools that they have and remixed them and gave them back to you in these
Well,
interesting
Smash Brothers for
ways.
Wii U didn't really have a story mode like the GameCube or the Wii ones did. It didn't have like the subspace thing. It just
Yeah.
basically had like
But I mean, like, even going
Like a
through
classic
the
mode, yeah.
like, so I would go through. That's what I did, and then I did the timed challenges,
Right,
like
right.
the 1 minute Smash with every character, and like I spent evenings doing that stuff just by myself. And so Battlefront, could have this big elaborate system like that, or it could not. And
Yeah.
we'll see. Like, I hope it does.
I think the difference, the X factor there in what we're talking about is that some of these games we're talking about.
Remember the X Factor?
Oh boy. No, but what I'm thinking is that certain games have more of a dynamic element to them. Like when you look at Rainbow Six, at least all the Rainbow Six that I've played in my life, I don't want to say that the maps are constricted, but they're definitely focused around a small number, maybe 2 or 3 hot points where like that's where fighting always happens. And it's a matter of who gets the superior positioning and who gets like a little bit of an advantage in the early firefights. Whereas something like Battlefield, and it looks to me like Battlefront, these games are huge war spaces that are kind of dynamic, and a lot of different things can be happening in a lot of different places at once.
It's just gonna be loud. Like, that's my impression of that game. It's just gonna be a loud kind of mess. Maybe in a good way. Maybe in a not so good way.
What, Battlefront?
Yeah.
Like real war. I imagine.
I also suspect that in a play space that large, it's going to feel hard for the different maps in a game like Battlefront to feel distinct and unique.
Sure, especially since it seems like the objectives, like all the maps seem to be objective based to, at least from what we've seen anyway so far. I couldn't speak to like all the modes that are going to be in Battlefront, but it looks like at least the main game mode, each map is going to be used in a very almost scripted way, where it's like, hey, as the rebels, you'll always be in this area of this map defending these objectives, and as the Imperials, you'll always be, coming from this direction and going down this pathway. So even though the stages are large, yeah, I mean, you're right, maybe they will be relatively static. I don't know.
I just really wish they put a single player mode in there.
Yeah.
I know.
Run around with BB-8 and Jakku and Ray and Finn are hanging out. And there's
Your
that
new child.
explosion
Your new
and
child.
All the other, yeah, my
I
new
mean,
baby.
yeah. There will be plenty more Star Wars video games to come following the new
I
trilogy.
hope so. They canceled like the last 10 of them, and then they put the other 2 on mobile, which is fine. But like,
Mobile one's all right.
yeah,
Star Wars
it's-
Uprising?
You check it out?
I did. I played the first 25 minutes of it. It's interesting. I have no problems with it. I like the setting. I like the ideas that are in play. I'd
Yeah.
rather play. I want a Star Wars game, a single player Star Wars game that looks like Star Wars
I
Battlefront.
agree. The mobile game is no substitute for any of that. I'm just saying I was pleasantly surprised
Yeah.
with what we did get. I don't like it. Who's hooked is Mitch Dyer.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
in
Yeah.
deep.
Yeah.
He texted me from Japan.
Yep.
Saying, yo, you want to do some co-op and Uprising? I'm like, A, it's 2:30 in the afternoon here. I'm at work. No. B, what time is it over in Japan? He's like,
C,
it's 6 a.m. I can't sleep.
You're in Japan.
Yeah. He's like, I can't sleep. I want to do some co-op missions. I'm like, go walk around the block.
Yeah.
Like, you're in Japan.
Perfectly safe. You can walk around anywhere in Tokyo.
Anywhere in Tokyo, you can go to a laundromat there, and it's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's true. All right, let's check in with the listeners.
Hey, listeners.
What's up, listeners?
Remember, you can always reach us at the email address,
up,
gamescoop@ign.com. I was really excited. I thought we got an email from a girl, but because it said the subject line said Melanie, but then the email is signed Josh.
Only the fishermen write in the trout spout.
So,
The fisherwomen.
so Melanie, if you are watching, your email has been compromised by Josh. And Josh asks, what game do you remember being the game that started you in gaming? For me, it was a PC game called Harpoon. Wasn't the first game I played, but was the first game I really played. Spent hours and hours on the military tactical game. Yeah. So he wants to know what's the game that really got us in there. And
Interesting.
Justin, I'm gonna let you go first, but I also want to point out, we talked beforehand, that this is he's stealing my game.
We share.
We share a game that really got us.
Yeah,
into
I
it.
mean, it's not an especially surprising. It's Super Mario Brothers. We got an NES for it was an Easter gift for the family. Oddly enough.
How old were you?
5.
Easter gift.
Yeah.
From
5.
who? Just from your parents?
It was
From
for
the
it was
bunny.
for the family.
The rabbit shows up
yeah.
with a big basket of games.
Yeah, I mean, it was Mario. I was a little bit too young to ever play Atari, and so I didn't know. I mean, now in hindsight, I realize how special Mario was, and his physics and the smoothness of his jumping and the smoothness of the scrolling stages was really special and different than games like Pitfall that had come before. But at the time, I just, was really fun, and I liked that there were so many secrets in it, and, you'd hit an invisible block, and then you would find, I remember I found the warp zone, on my own by jumping above the stage in 1-2. And that's, mind-blowing when you're, 5 or 6 years old. That's
You
a
think
really
you've
big deal.
you've discovered a secret.
Yeah.
No
It
one
is
else
only
knows.
yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
that
always
was-
looked like something was wrong when you were running up there,
Yeah.
running past the
Yeah,
score.
That's
the
how
timer.
clever is that?
Yeah.
You're up there where this element of the game that you just don't think that you should be able to interact with.
Yeah,
It
if
was
that,
really cool.
Yeah, that's not supposed to be the world that you're in. That's
Yeah.
just something for
And it
your
also felt
information.
like you could go underwater, and that felt really special, and it just felt like a really big special game. It was a big special game.
Yeah, we had an Atari 2600, and I would play games like Defender and Atlantis with my dad, Combat. But there was a Showbiz Pizza near my grandparents' house. And Showbiz is like Chuck E. Cheese.
Right.
And he would take us there and give us tokens, and my sister and I would play games. And then one day, Super Mario Brothers, the arcade cabinet was there, and then that was I could tell it was different and
Right.
special. It was just there was a long line of people waiting to play the game.
Wow.
I just played that at Brewcade here in
Yeah.
San Francisco. They have the Mario
Yeah.
arcade.
Brewcade is really cool. If anyone's in the Bay Area,
Yeah.
you should check out some Market Street.
Also, Foundry, Folsom Street Foundry, another great gaming and
Folsom Street Foundry. I haven't been there.
yeah, Tuesdays and Thursdays they do game nights, and it's incredible. A huge, beautiful space, lots of fighting games, lots of Smash, lots of Mario Kart,
I'm going
and board
to-
games.
I'm going to Portland this weekend.
Ground
And
Control.
I'm going to Ground Control.
Yep.
I'm very excited about that. 'Cause
It's
I-
awesome.
I heard they have a full bar.
Yeah. I just want to say, so I found Super Mario Brothers at the arcade, and then when I saw a commercial on TV for this new system that lets me play Super Mario Brothers at home, that was
That was it.
That was I told
I
my
think
parents
that
I
was
have to have this.
We had that a couple times in our lives growing up. Was this amazing moment of being able to go to an arcade and play something that was insurmountable to you? Because now I bought an arcade cabinet a couple years ago. I gave it to Sam Claiborne, who works here at IGN, because I didn't have room for it anymore. And when I was growing up, I thought arcades were full of technology from top to bottom.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, there's no way you could ever put that on a. And then when I got an arcade, I realized you open it up, the entire game
Just a
fits on
little
a thing
circuit
this
board, yeah.
big, and there's a big fat TV up top, and the rest is just bugs and dust.
Maybe a rat in there.
There's a dead rat, and that's about it. And I remember there was a couple times like that growing up where you would play an arcade game, and then it would come to and this happened with Super Mario Brothers, it happened with Donkey Kong, it happened with Ninja Turtles, the arcade, which was 4-player, and it blew my mind because I was like, oh, there's so much circuitry in there, and it's no, they put it on the NES, and on the NES they added more foot soldiers. They're like, well, just throw in more foot. That was actually a box quote. They're like, more foot soldiers. And then Mortal Kombat was one of those games that we played in the arcade. And then they put out on Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo, and we stopped going to the arcades. We're like, we don't need to go there anymore.
Yeah.
And then the arcades went away forever.
Yeah,
we
that's sad.
ruined our lives.
Now we have Brewcade and Ground Control.
It felt magic and special when arcade
Yeah.
games came home. It
Oh,
felt
yeah.
like you were
Yeah.
cheating.
Well,
And to
I
see
feel
how they got better over the years too,
Super Mario Bros. Was the first one that was identical to its arcade
Yeah.
version
Yeah.
in its home version.
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
and then when you have you take Mortal Kombat, so Mortal Kombat 1 when that came home was it was fine. But it was like a joke compared to the
Well,
arcade
right.
version.
But
And then,
Mortal Kombat
and then
2
2 was getting was
Yeah.
like, whoa, I actually feel like it's okay if I stay home and just play this because
Right.
it's close enough. It's not perfect. I still enjoyed going to the arcade to play it there, but it was MK3 and then playing MK Trilogy on the PS1.
Yeah.
That was that's it.
I had it
it's
on the N64.
flawless.
Me too.
So the N64 version was
$80.
good.
Yeah, $80.
I mean,
Yeah,
$75.
But that PS1 version was
Yeah.
just that was it. I don't need to go to the arcade anymore.
So Brian, what was the game?
So
for
the
you?
first game I ever played was there was a laundromat in Jersey City on the corner that had a Donkey Kong arcade cabinet in it, and I was like 4 years old, and my dad lifted me up to play it, and I really liked it. But then there was probably a year or two between that and when we got the NES, where I did most of the time I actually played video games was at school, because school had like weird computers where you played like stuff like Math Blaster and Reader Rabbit and Oregon Trail and Donkey Kong. Like there was this really, and this was like, to date myself here, this was when computers had 4 colors, and it was like black, white, purple, and baby blue. And every game you played was in those 4 colors. And then eventually, like, better computers came out. But the first Oregon Trail I ever played was just black and green, right? It was the original version of that
AKA
game.
Bison Murder.
Yeah, so it was actually
Bison Murder Simulator.
it was a couple of those games fell right in between me getting an NES, which when I got an NES and Mario was sold out when I went to get my NES that day. So I got Zelda.
It wasn't a bundle.
No. Actually, so I got the weirdest bundle of the NES ever. I don't know if anyone remembers this. There was a version. There was a bundle of the NES that didn't come with a game, or a Rob the Robot, or a power pad, or a light gun. It came with a book.
What book?
It came with a book that was about this thick. That was a huge guide of every NES game ever made and all the ones that were soon to come. And there was like a 1-page like cheat codes and explanation and maps. It was like before Nintendo Power was Nintendo
It's a book
Power.
about all this stuff you can't play.
Yeah, it was all this, and as a kid, it was just like this tome of like, I'll never have all of these games, and like there was a full page about Mike Tyson's Punch Out, and you would turn the page and it'd be a full page on Contra, like third-party stuff was in there. It was all beautiful 8-bit graphics all over the place. So I got the book bundle of the NES.
Weird.
I hadn't really thought about that in a while. So it was weird. I think there was a couple years there where I was mostly playing like weird edutainment games on a SVGA monitor, and that was
Math Blaster?
Yeah, and I was like excited to go to school because I'm like, I can play video games at school. And then we got an NES and a computer at home, and the rest is history.
So you think those edutainment games are like what got you into gaming?
I think they taught me what video games could be. I think they also taught me what I never wanted to play again. Because I think like by the 50th time you play Reader Rabbit or Math Blaster, you're sort of like, I get it, but like I want something with a story, Like Super Mario Brothers, the greatest story in video game history.
Vince, how about you?
So for me, it goes back before Super Mario Brothers. The first game that I was really super into was Q*bert. I played Q*bert not so much in the arcades, but at home on the Texas Instruments, the TI-99 4A. That was my first gaming system that I owned. My sister had a 2600, but my sister was older than me. I wasn't allowed generally into her room. I mean, sometimes I snuck in there and played a little bit of Pitfall or a really bad version of Pac-Man. But generally speaking, the first thing that was mine was that TI-99, and for a long time, Q*bert was the only game I had on it. And I think what grabbed my little tiny like 5-year-old mind about it was that Pac-Man seemed so linear to me. I mean, they're both single screen experiences, right? But Q*bert had this at least illusion of depth, of like 3D depth.
Right.
It was like I was maneuvering top to bottom, but I was also maneuvering left to right, and it looked like I was coming in and out of the screen. So to me, it seemed like a much more free, sophisticated, and dynamic thing. Like
You could also jump out of the game.
Yeah.
Like you could jump off of the game board, which like you can't in Pac-Man. You're just in this death maze forever. Like you're trapped. Even when you try to leave, you show up on the other side. It's like this Greek tragedy.
Yeah, and that's actually
Q*bert can just opt out.
Yeah, he's just like, nah, I'm committing suicide.
And the interesting thing about that too is that that's actually a mechanic in the game too, because whereas Pac-Man has the limited resource there is the power pellets, right? You grab a power pellet, now you're God mode for like the next however long. So the similar thing in Q*bert were the discs, the escape discs, and the whole thing is like Coily, the snake. He was like the most imposing enemy because he could kind of go up and down. He had the same mobility as you basically, and he was the only one who had that. So, but you could trick him. You could stand on the edge near where one of those discs were, and then you could jump off, and he would try to jump after you to capture you, and he would miss, and you'd go back to the top on this escape disc. And like that was such a cool, like you had to think about the difference between that and Pac-Man. Pac-Man was just like, I get the power up and then I win. And this, it was like, I've got to lure him in, I've got to bait him, I've got to time it just right, and then like I got to try to make my escape and trick him into dying. It was like a way more, I didn't realize at the time why I liked that more. It was just like, oh, cool, pretty colors, I'm 5.
I really appreciate that scene in Wreck-It Ralph where Q*bert's like this down and out homeless dude. Because like if you think about Pac-Man and Q*bert, like they were they were just as, they were both really fun games.
Hubert got left behind.
Hubert got left behind. Like, he is in the history of video games. Like, we got a
They
Hubert,
tried to
like,
bring him back.
Hubert's
I think
like-
they brought out a new
Was it
Hubert
this
game
year?
this year. Yeah.
Yeah.
More different enemies with more different AI, routines to chase you down.
Hubert's like the two chicks in Destiny's Child.
yeah. Like who?
The other one.
Yeah. Pac-Man's Beyonce.
Yeah, in that scenario, Pac-Man's
No,
Beyonce.
sorry.
But I want to ask. I want to ask another question. now.
Pac-Man could be Beyonce.
That's true.
I want to ask another question that kind of piggybacks off this.
Yeah.
Because there's the game that like was the first one that got us in, right? But then like, what's the one that wrangled you in for life? Like, we're all adults, at least in terms of
right.
the amount of years we have been on Earth.
Yeah.
And we're still doing this, and I don't want to speak for everyone, but I'm going to be doing this until like my hands don't work anymore. So like,
You'll be able to control games with your mind.
Yeah.
right?
At that
So
point.
there's
No
got to
one's
be.
going to want to see those reviews, by the way. I think it's good, but I can't play it.
What was I saying again? No, but so
Have you checked out Senior Citizen with Arthritis on YouTube.com?
But like, what's the moment I feel like where you knew as like a young adult or not a child when you're like, I'm gonna be doing this for
Zelda,
a long time.
100% Legend
Which
of
Zelda?
The original Legend of Zelda. Like, the first time I started sequence breaking in that game, when like I accidentally went to the third temple before the first one, and
Sure.
I'm like, you can do that? Or typing in your name as Zelda and playing an entire second quest. Like, the fact that game had a sequel in it
Yeah.
was crazy to me. And I probably spent 200 hours playing that game. Like, to the point now, somebody was playing it on the GBA in the office a few years ago, and I walked up to them and I was like, burn that bush, bomb that wall, burn that, move that block, move that here. You have now, you have 7 heart containers before the first level. Done. And they were just like, oh my God, like, how do you know all that? And I'm like, this is ingrained in my head. Like, my mom will tell the story about how there was like a full year where all she heard was a Legend of Zelda theme song coming out of our living room. And she didn't hear anything but that. I didn't watch TVs or movies. I just played Zelda.
And young you knew then that this was something you're never gonna get rid of.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it was just so special. It was like, it was really hard to explain to parents at the time. Like, my parents are both very well read. Like, they're teachers, and they're sitting there with a whole library of books in the house. Why don't you read? Oh yeah, I will. Why don't you do this? Go outside. I'm like, yeah, but there's an adventure right here.
Yeah.
You don't understand. There's a story here. Like, this guy has to save this girl from this pig.
Yeah.
And
An old man in a cave.
an old man it does a very irresponsible thing by giving a dangerous weapon to a child. And
It's just a wooden sword.
it's just a wooden sword. But there's to me, there's an entire adventure. Like, when I think about Legend of Zelda, I don't think about like the 8-bit graphics. I think about the paintings that were on the back of the box and in the manuals and stuff like that.
I love the art in the
know?
original Zelda manual.
Where it's just this kid, and there in front of him is this insurmountable mountain and these giant lizard men, and he's got to fight them all. And I think about the game like that, like it's a conquest of this huge adventure, and not really just a bunch of blocks smashing into each other.
Yeah, it's interesting that Zelda was like open world, right?
Yeah.
Go up, down, left, or right.
Sure.
Well, not down at the start, but I mean, like, you can go, and it's like, all right, go. Hope you went in that cave, otherwise you're host. Like,
Yeah.
But you'll figure it out.
Yep.
Yeah, it respected our intelligence a lot more than a lot of modern games do.
And like, you'll go right and run into Octoroks, or go left, run into other stuff.
Or you
Like,
blow
it's
up
cool.
a wall and you walk in and some guy's like, you found a secret, and he gives you money. You blow up another wall and some guy goes, you broke my door, pay me. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
It's one of the first 20 video games ever made or whatever. And it's like,
And then
how the hell did they do that?
and then he went on to destroy everyone's pots
Yep.
and everything, and
Yep.
no one cares.
Yeah. Like, I mean, Link's gone on to do 1,000 other adventures. The original Legend of Zelda is still one of my favorite. I still play through that game once a year. Like,
That's awesome.
It's still Super Mario Brothers for me, because that's the one where I convinced my parents to get me my video game console, and I was like the
Yeah.
first kid in my neighborhood, the first kid at school to have an NES, so everyone wanted to talk to me about it and come over to my house and play. And that's what actually like started gaming became a big part of my identity, and like
Right.
who I was. So it was still Super Mario Brothers.
I remember that was really cool how that happened a lot in the 80s and 90s was you made friends through video games.
Yeah, like
Oh, yeah.
And you would go to their houses and you would play games that you didn't have, and it was like going to a different world. Like, you'd go to some kid's house and you'd sit in his on his floor, and his mom would bring in food, and you'd eat snacks and play Silver Surfer for NES, which is like a game I would never buy, but my
a great
friend got
soundtrack.
it. Did you guys like trade games with each other? Like,
Yeah.
let each other
Sure,
borrow them,
100%.
and then some idiot would write his name on yours, and then you'd
yeah.
have to fight him.
Yeah, that would be.
I didn't loan my
that'd be
games
really
out.
bad.
Really?
No.
Really?
No.
You were that kid?
Yeah.
Oh man, you're bad.
Yeah, I wouldn't loan them out.
Really?
Yeah.
It was like
I mean, not as like a kid, like in high school I would, but not as a
it was
young-
like a
not
like
as
a
youth.
It was like mixtapes on like a black market with my friends and I. Like we were constantly trading. Everyone, you would like the big thing you couldn't do was I couldn't lend a game to Vince, and then Vince would lend that game to Damon, and then I'd be like, "Where's the game?" And you'd be like, "Damon has it," and then Damon would be like, "Oh, my mom sold it," and I'd be like, "I don't have." There's no cops
never
that
let
can
that
help me
happen,
here. Like this won't hold up in court.
All right, we have time for one or two more questions. This is from Jordan. He says, you have had plenty of discussions regarding a one-console future, but with Apple opening up the Apple TV to allow games, and some flops like the Ouya in the last few years, I was wondering if you thought there is a possibility of a new challenger in the console market. Which companies do you believe could contend for a fourth spot in mainstream console gaming, and what would they need to do to carve out their own niche?
Yeah.
weird, right?
It's been the same for
Yeah.
a while, but it hasn't always been this way. Like
at one time there wasn't a PlayStation,
Sure.
and at one time there wasn't an Xbox.
Yep.
But I heard a theory, and I would need to. I guess didn't like fact check this in my mind to verify that this is true. That since the beginning of consoles, there's always been 3 people making consoles, 2 experiencing a lot of success, and 1 struggling. So it's like when there was Nintendo, Sony, and Sega. Sega was like really on the ropes.
Yeah.
You know, and now there's Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft, and Nintendo's kind of in some trouble.
There was also Nintendo, Sega, and TurboGrafx,
Right.
which was a weird few
and
years.
Turbo was definitely.
so-
Turbo was definitely the best
Again, like
one
I'm
of
not
all
saying,
of them.
I'm just like I literally that just popped
love
into my
my
head.
TurboGrafx.
I don't know
Yeah.
that that's super verified. Like last gen, maybe that doesn't hold up because they
Right.
were all kind of balanced. But that's sort of a rough rule of thumb.
So in the 80s, there was Nintendo and Sega, both gaming companies at the time. Nintendo hadn't always been a gaming company, but they decided they were going to be a gaming company.
Well, not video gaming, but yes, gaming company.
Yeah, you're right. So the companies that had the I don't know, the means to enter the market were giant technology companies
Right.
like Sony
Yes.
and Microsoft.
Yeah.
Companies that have the cash and the resources to put behind that R&D and the marketing. You know,
Did he ask? Are we supposed to speculate on who it would be, or just
Yeah,
is it
he wants to know like what companies could possibly contend. It would
Yeah,
have to be like-
Comcast.
or like a Google,
I mean, it would
I'm
be.
sorry,
It would be.
Alphabet.
It would
Is that
be.
what
It would
they're
be AMD. AMD is who. it would be.
AMD.
Yeah. I mean,
See,
they're
they're not on the same level as Sony or Microsoft.
But they're already powering all the consoles anyway. You know, so it's like
That's interesting.
That'd be
not-
an interesting play for them.
Like it's not all you have to do is design a whole console, but it's kind of like all you got to do is just package it up and release a box with a controller and have some first party software.
I think Amazon has stuck one toe in that pond. Like
Yeah.
they have set top boxes. They have a Fire TV stick. They have a dedicated
I think they're-
controller,
yeah.
which is like more than Apple has. You know, Apple has been still afraid of that. There's a lot of controllers that work with iOS devices,
Yep.
but none of them are very straight up like this is the Apple controller. But
it's not-
Amazon has a Amazon Fire controller that it looks and plays like an Xbox 360 controller. Like I was playing Crossy Road on my television a couple weeks ago just because it was there and it was free. So I think like they could probably get into it, but I think they're sort of moving away from hardware stuff too. Like they did their phones and
hardware's
tablets.
tough. Hardware's tough.
It's real
for
tough.
giant
really
companies like
expensive.
Amazon to succeed.
It's really expensive.
Even Microsoft has had a challenging run trying to make hardware succeed outside of the Xbox.
It feels like Apple, if they wanted to, they could totally step in and just
Apple,
force
yeah.
their way in.
Apple could
I mean, if
totally
you look
do
at Xbox, like they forced their way in. Like that was a bunch of kind of out of it old middle-aged guys who were just like, let's make the Generation X video game machine box. And they showed up and it was just like this gaudy, giant, ugly box with a big X on it.
But that
and they
was
started
even
making
that-
deals. And
Even that was building off of DirectX on the PC.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
they weren't
they had
even starting from
experience,
nothing.
yeah. They had experience on the PC gaming side. So
We've already seen an era where a bunch of multimedia, electronics giants are all, pitch in and say, "Hey, let's make our own box." The 3DO, the CDI, we've already kind of seen that era, and we kind of see how that shakes out. It just almost seems like an immutable rule of the market that like there's only room for so many, and one has to fall in order for there to be space for another.
Yeah, I mean, it would probably be someone like an AMD or an Nvidia or a Samsung or just a big electronics manufacturer, LG. I mean,
I remember there was a lot of speculation for a while that EA would make their own dedicated console because it's like they're able to annualize most of their games anyway. But I just never see anything like that happening.
No.
There's no reason to.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I mean they already have. So if the idea is like we want to get something in people's living rooms as an anchor so that we can sell them our stuff, or they already have Origin. Like that's that's a software solution to that problem. And then, as far as like getting their games out there, I mean, they obviously don't have any. They're on everything. They're on every single platform. So it's not like they need a kind of a bespoke delivery system to get their product out there. They kind of like, in a way, like a company like EA. I don't really see what they would have to gain almost, you know what I mean, like from taking on the risk. Same thing with AMD, I personally think. Like, you're right, I think they could do it, but it's like you said, they're already selling
make a lot of money.
They're already making a lot of money selling what they have to all the competitors.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, why endanger that by trying to step into the ring yourself?
It's so fascinating to me that these companies, cutthroat companies, all have AMD inside.
I know.
Yep.
It's like, how does that work?
I guess technically Valve is trying to do something like
Right,
this with
right.
the Steam box.
Yeah.
Which is still
We're still like,
kind of nebulous and
yep.
don't
We
really
think-
understand how it's going to work.
I mean, Altano, you're totally right. That in terms of pure, like, just pure betting, like if we were to bet on who could do it and would do it, Apple is the answer. I mean, they have literally tens of billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars just in cash. Like, they could buy Nintendo easily, and then they would be done. They're already dipping their toes in. They already have a huge software and hardware track record. They're one of the biggest software and hardware, sort of holistic view. It's sort of interesting. Like, game consoles are one of the only things where, like, software and hardware, you need to be really good at both, and they're really closely married together. And then here's this package. And like, Apple's really one of the only companies doing that to a great degree of success with iOS and their desktop OS and computers. So.
It feels like, I mean, so I guess what we're asking for here is like they need to make a dedicated console because Apple is already eating a lot of people's lunches in the gaming space. Like,
that's what I was gonna say.
I play a lot of. I was playing like Lara Croft Go recently for a while, and that ate up time I could have been spent playing Metal Gear or Mario Maker or anything else. So it's interesting. I really just think there's a sort of pride thing with their interfaces that they don't want to just be like, here is a controller. Like, if you give people a controller and you say it works with all of these games, then you're already in. Like, I think the Apple TV is your console. You're already there. And you already have people going, like, that's the thing. Like, if I get an Apple TV this fall or whenever the new ones come out, like, it has all my movie purchases on it already. It has all my music on it already. It has the last 5,000 apps I've downloaded basically baked in. All the games I've already purchased are already there. So there's already a video game ecosystem waiting for me. I just need a way to play it.
They don't need to have a game console to make $1 billion off of video games. They already do.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say is that in a way I don't see, while you're right, they totally have all the credentials and the capabilities and the resources to do it, I don't see why they do it because, I mean, and as much as it pains me to say this, by the numbers, they already have the number one gaming device in the world.
Yeah.
So
it's already in everyone's pocket.
They already have not total saturation, but as much as they could hope for, and adding a separate box to their line.
I don't think it's
doesn't improve
likely,
that.
but I think it's more likely than anyone else.
I think
Sure, yeah.
I think the most fascinating thing about all this is that despite all of that you're describing about how they have the number one gaming platform in the world, if you think about it, and they're making millions of dollars off of games, game sales aren't slowing down at all, and console sales are doing almost better than ever. So and people still kind of want that traditional kind of core sit down.
Oh yeah, I don't kind of want it. I
do want it. I need it.
I demand it.
I refuse to let go of it ever.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. So I think there's, we're gonna have to meet in the middle with that kind of stuff, I think. And Apple's gonna have to realize that before they just go, well, people just want to play Candy Crush on their phone. Like, no, I want to play Metal Gear.
Or it's totally valid for them to continue to serve that audience and keep making money off of it. And
it's also not
Microsoft
there. Like, if
and Sony will
someone
keep
wants to
serving
make
this
Metal
audience.
Gear or a Metal Gear like experience on their device, they can.
Yeah.
Like, Apple's like, yo, like, do what you want. It's
Sure.
not, it's the App Store. Release whatever app you want to make.
Yep.
And then it happens to be Candy
some
Crush
extent.
that makes $500 million.
Yeah, that's true. All right, before we go, time to play Video Game 20 Questions.
Yeah.
Our suggestion this week comes from Kelson, who says, hello, GameScoop crew. My name is Kelson. I'm a longtime GameScoop listener.
Hey, it's
really
me,
been
Kelson.
enjoying Video Game 20 Questions, so I thought I would send in a game for the crew to guess. Thank you guys so much for making one of my favorite podcasts. Have a nice day.
Oh, you're welcome.
What a nice guy. Now he's going to ruin my afternoon
that's
by
what I was
making me guess a bunch of wrong games and screw up my friends.
Dance for you too, Kelson.
You totally are too harsh on yourself. You do all right in this game.
I think this game is too harsh on me.
Did this game come out before January 1st, 2000?
No.
Okay.
Is this game on a Sony console?
Yes?
Is this game exclusive to the console to a Sony console?
No.
Okay.
Multi-platform. in the last 15 years.
Is the game from the PS3, 360, Wii generation?
Yes.
Okay. Are you primarily shooting things in this game?
Yes.
Okay.
We're not really close.
No, we're doing great.
Are we?
I think we're doing fine.
Okay. Can never tell with these things.
Shooty game
Okay,
from
so
the
it's a shooty game.
Xbox 360, PS3 era.
Okay. Is this game a what you might describe as a sci-fi shooter? Does it have a sci-fi setting?
I don't think so.
Okay, that's useful data.
Can you play as a woman?
No.
He was pretty defiant there. I think you play as an animal
No.
or a man.
It's probably more likely.
It's
There's
manimal.
not a lot of games where you're playing as an animal that shoots things. They don't really have the fingers you need.
Is that why?
Yeah.
Okay.
Conker's bad for a day, but that's not the game.
That's not from that gen.
Did this game have is this a primarily single player game?
Yes.
Okay, there we go.
Single player shooter,
No women,
360, PS3 era, not sci-fi,
not platform exclusive,
not
not Sony exclusive.
Primarily single player, though, is what's crazy. But we haven't. Okay,
Oh,
I
we
know what I'm going to
find
ask if
first
you
or
don't
third.
ask. No, we haven't asked that. We don't know perspective.
Right. That's where I was going to go.
We're
Yeah,
picturing an
okay, do it.
FPS, but we don't
Hit him
know.
hard.
Right. Is this a first-person perspective shooter?
yes.
Okay.
So, obviously, there were all the Call of Duties.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Is this set in what we would consider like modern, current times?
Wow. I really don't think so. Wow.
Is this like Black Ops
Is
2
it?
or something?
No, I don't. Whew. I'm gonna say no while you. pick up-
No, double check. It's
But we
fine.
can't have that. We'll move on, and then he'll come back to us.
Okay, it's not. No, it's not.
Not modern times.
Not modern times. And that is question number 10.
Is it Black Ops?
Is it oldie times or future times?
Well, we know it's not probably older times
Yeah,
because
like
he said
Jekyll
not.
and Hyde
He said
times?
not a science fiction setting.
Oh, but he also was so we know it's not like World War II because that wouldn't be confusing.
Right.
Right.
So now I'm thrown for a loop.
Yeah.
Me,
too.
I kind of am too.
That it's not sci-fi, but it's not the future or not the distant past that it wouldn't have confused Damie.
because what I was gonna say, it's not for the not a sci-fi setting per se. Is I was gonna say maybe a Time Splitters game. I'm trying to think of which Time Splitters was
You can
on.
play as girls in those games.
Yeah,
Oh, that's right.
And you
Yeah,
can play as chimpanzees.
yeah, because video games.
I like.
I also
like,
wouldn't say those games are primarily single player.
That's
Yeah.
true.
That's true. Yeah, Time Splitters.
And I
yeah.
wouldn't say COD Blops is primarily.
No,
single
no,
player
not at all.
either.
So
No,
let's
not at all.
let's narrow in on that then. Let's hone in on that one. I feel
Yeah.
like
So-
how many primarily single player first person shooter games are there?
I always think about Black, but that was from the generation before.
Right. There'd be.
There was
What about-
13, which was
Oh yeah, that
the
cell shaded.
cell shaded game.
What about Red Faction?
Also the
Red
generation
Faction's
before.
very sci-fi.
Oh, the
Very
generation
sci-fi,
before,
yeah,
right?
True.
Wait a minute. So oh yeah, that's right. That was PS2 GameCube.
Well,
This
the
is
first one was the
Red,
first one.
Red
Yeah,
Steel.
Yeah.
That's not a bad guess.
Are you primarily shooting in that game? It's
Yeah.
mostly a
well,
katana
you're
game.
shooting and sorting.
sorting.
Whatever.
No, but it's on Sony and
he
Microsoft
sorted me.
platforms as well.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, but he didn't say it was that game got ported, didn't it?
No, it
I don't-
didn't.
no, it didn't.
No,
I don't think
Red
it
Steel was exclusive to
Yeah.
the Wii.
The way.
This is really tough.
Yeah. Because if only because there's so many first-person shooters to
Yeah,
pick
but
from.
there's only so many single player ones.
Yeah. Yeah, that's weird.
Primarily single player.
Turok?
But it is in first person, so it's not something like like a Tomb Raider where you do shoot things a lot.
Like I'm thinking Perfect Dark, but that was only on the 360.
Yeah, that's also very sci-fi. It's not sci-fi.
Can I ask a question?
Of course. That's the game. That's literally the game.
Was it on a? I want to ask, like, is it like an original property or is it based on a movie? I don't
Yeah,
know
that's
why I'm
totally yeah.
whispering
Ask,
to you.
That's fine.
ask,
No,
him,
he can hear
ask
you.
him.
That's actually a great
If it's
whispering.
licensed,
No,
it's
that's
totally a good.
actually a great question.
Okay,
Ask it.
is it a licensed game?
No.
Okay, so
Is it a sequel?
No.
Has it? Has it gotten sequels?
that would have been that would be a logical.
yeah, let's do that. Get in there.
Are they still making it today, or has it gotten sequels, or some?
Yeah, see,
I don't know
I-
what like the
is
best
it-
way to phrase it is.
Let's just stick with. Did it have sequels?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
how many questions are we up
It
to?
was the first in its series.
How many are we
That's
up?
13.
Oh, we're doing great. I thought
First
we were at,
person
like 16,
shooter,
17.
not sci-fi, PS3, 360 era.
Yeah. I don't think this would be described as sci-fi.
Yeah, we might get you on this later, damn it.
Yeah, I know, but like in my heart of hearts, I
Okay.
know that I'm not trying to cheat you.
Set in
But maybe you should ask about other like genres or like moods, settings.
Genres or moods? I heard shooter.
Oh,
like Dishonored.
No, wait, is it shooter? Is it a shooter? Do we call it a shooter?
Wait a minute.
I just gave it away?
Wait a minute. Would you say that does this game
BioShock.
does this game have a horror vibe to it?
Yes.
Does this game take place underwater?
Yes.
Is this game Echo the Dolphin?
It is BioShock.
It is BioShock.
Nice.
So here's why I find it confusing. First of all, kind of sci-fi.
Is it? See, I think of it more like a horror.
Totally sci-fi.
I don't know.
Your powers are like.
I don't think I would. I don't think I
guess-
would say BioShock sci-fi.
It takes place in a dystopian alternate reality that is totally sci-fi.
Well, I guess
where
so-
gene splicing has
Well,
changed
why,
the
like,
course of.
I was not trying to mislead you, but like I don't think of it as
Yeah.
sci-fi.
But here's the weird thing
myself.
about
I think of it as
sci-fi.
like a horror game.
When
a
I
horror
picture
shooter.
sci-fi, I use in my head. I replace that word with the future. But technically, it is fiction, and it is like science-based fiction. So yeah, I mean, sure, I would probably say
The other
BioShock
element
is
of it,
sci-fi.
and I could be wrong about this, I feel like that didn't come to PS3 until much later.
But it's still. I mean,
was
it's
on
not.
the
It's not an
PS3.
exclusive. You just said it was
from that generation.
Right.
It was on both
Right.
platforms.
Am I
what's
wrong
weird?
about that though? Did it come to PS3 at the same time, or was it not
can't
until
remember
later?
if it was a
in the-
simultaneous-
I feel
It might have been
like
like a year
I feel
later.
like a lot of these games. I always think it's going to be like the deepest cut game, like Winback or something weird like that.
I would not think that.
and then it's like Final
like-
Fantasy VII. I'm like, what the hell? Like,
No, people do
Switch.
send in.
Yeah.
People do send in really obscure games, but I know it's like. No, you're just never gonna get there.
Yeah.
It's too hard. There are too many layers to get there. So
It's
Freedom
funny because I was thinking Bioshock was absolutely what I was going with until you said no, not sci-fi, and I was like,
You gave us a good.
But then I gave you a hint that got you back there.
yeah.
I also couldn't remember if it was like modern day and you're revisiting it, but it's set in the 60s.
Well, that's the weird thing too. Is it is obviously the past,
Right.
but then it's not as far in the past as you think because they're a time capsule. So
Right.
then I'm like, I don't remember what year that game took place.
Right.
But it's 50s down there.
Sure.
Yeah, so it was set in 1960. That was-
because Bioshock Infinite was like almost certainly sci-fi.
It's
Right.
definitely sci-fi.
It's definitely
There's
sci-fi.
no two ways about that.
Like,
That is
I mean,
sci-
yeah, because
Science
you're
fiction.
you're fighting
They're
ghosts.
both sci-fi, but
But I
just
think
not.
of that more like steampunk. I don't know.
but it's still sci-fi.
You can be steampunk and
Again,
sci-fi.
I think maybe you're thinking in terms of an aesthetic
Yeah,
or a
maybe
mood.
that's- maybe
you know
I'm
what I
getting
mean?
caught up
like
on
Bioshock
that.
Infinite has like time portals in it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, like
that's
it is literally the definition of science fiction.
Yeah.
I guess you're right, yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Huh. Anyway, that suggestion came
That was
from
good.
Kelson.
Thank you, Kelson. That was
Yay,
great.
Kelson.
Good. All right, that's all the scoops we have for you this week. Thank you for joining us as always. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Vince. My name is Damon. Remember, you can always reach us at the email address gamescoop@ign.com. This is IGN Gamescoop, and we're out.